What do you think? Because we've spoken about this privately, but it seems like they're basically just trying to manufacture consent for Kamala Harris by going shopping with her now, by giving her 1 hour infomercials. And am I racist for saying this?
Are you racist for saying that?
Yeah.
No. That's what the media does. They did it with Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. They didn't mean to do it with Trump, but they did it with Trump as well. The more coverage you give a person, the more you got to understand. Kamala Harris was a district attorney in
San Francisco.
No, I know, but and she's the Attorney General of California, right? And Attorney General of California. Even because the world, the rest of the nation doesn't know her. That's just what this does. This gives her notoriety. It gets in people's mind. They're familiar with her. People tend to vote for people that they're comfortable with, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but only thing I'm doing is arguing the point that, yeah, they're prompting. You got to understand how many black people in 2008 was voting for Hillary Clinton before they got to know Barack Obama. They started seeing him. They saw him with Oprah. They became familiar with her. So that's what you do. That's exactly what they're doing. They're pushing her forward. You want me to talk, so I'm going to be loud.
Geez.
So
Ty analysis has gotten a lot better. Yeah, the more time he spends around me, his analysis is better for sure.
Interesting. So that's exactly what they're doing. So we don't even need to argue that point. That's what they're doing. We understand who runs CNN. So we can fool ourselves and think that it's not. That being said, and like I said, it's a bad thing in the sense that you're claiming to be fair and balanced, or is that Fox? Fox. Is fair and balanced. What is CNN?
Most trusted name in the
news. Most trusted name in the news. You ain't most trusted if you're only giving, if you're only focusing on, that's almost kind of hard to say as well because they've been doing all these town halls. Mm-hmm. But, they know they still don't give Bernie. If you see when they analyze, you honestly have to have someone that campaigned in Bernie's, that was part of Bernie's campaign to even argue on his behalf when they have those panels on CNN. And even now, some of the people that campaign on his behalf is like, well, yeah. And it's just like, they understand their power, they understand their influence, and they understand what they can actually do, and they're doing it. But what I would say is that
Polish Hammer. Ty so loud, I just thought he was outside my window in Florida.
I actually am. You don't see me? What's happening, player? What I will say though is that I actually got into a little Twitter back and forth with a guy yesterday. One
second. Ty's 15 followers away from 1,000, so give him your Twitter handle.
Yeah.
So I'll write it in. Put Ty over the top. He's 15 away from 1,000.
15.
I think it's Tommy _ something.
It's Tommy _ Tahifi.
If you want to put him over the top, There's his Twitter. So who'd you get into it with?
I got into it with the guy about, I'm texting this out. I'm sharing it right now. Hold on. I got into a guy about Kamala Harris. And he said, what was his comment? Was like, you Bernie bros, you can't, Bernie does nothing wrong. And I didn't want to argue that point. Obviously, he doesn't pay attention because we point out, I point out, but if you want to say it as a whole, we point out what, if there's things that Bernie Sanders does that we don't agree with, or if he misses a step. No one's saying Bernie Sanders is perfect, but Kamala Harris sure isn't. And what I was trying to let the guy know is that, don't just jump on the bandwagon. Like, we had enough with the group think. Like, investigate. It's right here. And I even told him, I said, look, if there's something wrong with Bernie, point those out. You can have a discussion. I said, I'll actually have you on our show and we can talk about it. Because I think discourse is good. It's beneficial. It's productive. You know what I mean? That you can talk about it, but to kind of what we do is brush someone away by saying, oh, you're just a Bernie bro, instead of diving deep. And I think we should dive deep into these issues because these are the people that's going to be running this country. We need to understand when she says Medicare for all, if it takes for private insurances, to be eliminated for Medicare for all to stand, hey, let's do it. Because we've been dealing with private insurance and it hasn't done well for the country as a whole, for 200 years. And the next day, she backwalks only based on the pressure that she had. So that means she doesn't have any conviction. I'm not saying she don't have, as a whole person, I'm sure there's things that she's convicted in, but as far as policy, she don't really believe in Medicare for all.
But what I was going to say, you live in California. California was about to be the first state with single payer.
Yeah.
She was running.
Yeah.
For California, for national.
She didn't speak on it.
No.
Yeah, because you know why? Because she don't stand for anything. She's seeing which way the wind is blowing. That's what I'm talking about. And enough with that, man. Enough with that. Enough with it. Bernie Sanders, whether right or wrong, he's been that way. And the things that he's been wrong about, he's acknowledged. And some things he's fought back because he has conviction. That's what conviction is. You know what I mean? You can't just say something and okay. No, but he investigated, but he's a human being. And so no one's saying that he's not perfect. But, I'll put it like this. There's two things I want to talk about, and I kind of went on a little rant right now, but let me just back up a bit.
You on a rant?
Oh, no. Let me back up a bit and just say, and I want to address this. Kamala Harris is black, okay? However you want to define that as African-American, black, Jamaican, you understand when people...
She's actually not African-American, I think.
No, listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know what she is. But this is what I'm talking about. She's Jamaican and something else. Okay? But African American is a term, is a social norm that they gave us. They gave us that name. A blanket black people that were born here that could have been from Jamaica all became African American. Okay? So African American isn't a real thing. We're American. But what they're saying is, this is what they're trying to do. They don't understand that this is the same. You can't keep moving and stuff while I'm talking. This is what they're doing. If you want to do that, you can do it over there. It's just if you're reaching around me. You gotta understand, this is like white supremacy rhetoric. You know what I mean? This is the divide and conquer. We divide. You know what I'm saying? If you're two, they did it with Barack. Back in the day, you gotta understand this. Back in the day, let's be more specific. In the turn of the 18th century, in the turn of the 19th century, in the turn of the 20th century, if you had an inch of black blood in you, you were black. They started to make laws at the turn of the 17th century, in like 1618, they started to change the laws that would identify an indentured servant from a slave. One of those laws were, if you were mixed, they would call it a mulatto at the time, that your child would be born into slavery because you are black. And you had the same rights, which was none, that any other black person had because you had an inch of blood in you. That rhetoric pushed itself all the way to the 20th century. And all of a sudden, a charismatic, intelligent, well-articulated, handsome man that was black came in. And then they wanted to, he's half white too. Is he not? Now all of a sudden it means something. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing. Like what they do is try, because you have to understand, they understand the poison that we have. Like, this is ingrained in our minds. And the field nigga, house nigga mentality. And what the slave owner used to do when he would have the house slaves, watch and tell, and they would look out. They would be like the slave owners' lookout. They felt that they were better than the slaves that were in the field. That mentality, that's a culture. That was a mentality that we still carry today. It looks completely different, but they understand that. And so what they do is then they divide us. And they say, they'll push that out there. Well, they're not all the way black. He's black and white. Now, all of a sudden, if you have white blood in you, now they're trying to say that, she's not black because her mother's Jamaican. No, she's black because what it is the experience. It's her experience in America. Is when we talk about African American, we're not talking about African American like literally our ancestry, because a lot of black people here wasn't born in Africa. If you want to say that, if you want to talk about, well, yeah, everyone is from Africa, well, then this whole country should be African American. But that's not what they're referring to. They gave us a blanket title. But when we talk about the experience. As a black woman, she's African American. And we're talking about her experience in this. If she was pulled over, if she was raped, guess what? They would treat her just like they're treating those little girls that's being raped by R. Kelly. They would treat, if she was a little black girl being raped, they would treat her the same because they see her the same. They don't look at her. The police don't pull her over and say, do you got Jamaican in your blood? Are you African? You came from... They don't do that. They look at you. And based on how you look is how your experience is dictated in this country. So the back and forth on whether she's black or not, she's African American, that's a white supremacist rhetoric that they try to use to distract and confuse and separate us. We don't need to be arguing about that. I'm not going to even allow people to argue about that. She's black. Her experience in America is black. I don't agree with her policy, but she's black. Period, point blank.
But you know what I think? And I agree with what you're talking about.
But let me, go ahead, go.
I actually think the motivation of the Democratic Party to really push her, because I never thought the Democratic Party's chosen child was going to be Beto O'Rourke. I always thought it was her. Is because I think Bernie versus Kamala, the first time, when Bernie officially announces, I think the first time that Kamala is outpolling him, the Democratic Party is going to start pushing the message. Bernie Sanders, step out of the way. You're blocking a black woman who could be president. Because there is that among the Democratic Party. We see it on Twitter all the time. You know, Bernie is wrong when it comes to black people. Bernie doesn't care about black people. Bernie doesn't get black people. And I think they're trying to pit him against a black woman that if she does outpoll him at certain points, that then the message is going to be Bernie's trying to stop the first black woman president.
Well, that's speculation.
That is what I think based on what I've seen from the DNC.
No, I said speculation because, you know, in 2016, there was some missteps that Bernie had, but he acknowledged them. It's okay. He does not understand. It's our experience here is way more nuanced than, you know, making a certain amount of money or this, and like it's way more nuanced than that. It's a lot of things that he just didn't get. He's from Vermont.
Yeah, it's
understandable, but he understands that though, right? So I don't know. They could, but there was a lot of black people that went for Bernie Sanders, and a lot of progressives will go for Bernie Sanders. But of course,
what I'm not saying is whether Bernie does or does not understand. I think he has made inroads. What I'm saying is the Democratic Party is an identity politics party.
Yeah.
Tom Perez.
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi. This is how they play the game.
Yeah.
So I think they know that the Democratic Party pushed the Bernie Bros narrative. It was Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC.
Yeah.
That came out of them. So I think they're going to see Bernie Sanders versus Kamala Harris. I'm not really worried about any of the other candidates.
Yeah.
And they're going to push the narrative that Bernie, again, doesn't understand black people and is trying to, suppress a black woman from running for president.
Well,
yes, it is speculation, but that's based on what I'm already seeing. Because it's not just CNN; it's all of them are pushing her hard, and she's already getting endorsements from a lot of Democratic Party leaders. I mean, the contest hasn't even started, and like I was talking to you yesterday about, what has she accomplished? That's different. She is qualified to run, but what has she accomplished that she should be? She's being anointed.
Yeah.
Essentially, like Hillary Clinton was.
Yeah. Well, to me, and we talked about it earlier, like, to me, she reminds me, like, she has whispers of Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. That's what she reminds me of. She has whispers of Hillary Clinton. And she seems disingenuous. And so, to what you're speaking on, maybe. You can't, the Democratic Party can do whatever they want. It's hard for me to argue to say whether they will or not. If they do, then you fight against it because, you just fight against it. Like, there's nothing you really can do because, what the Democratic Party talks about is they are identity politics. I don't think that we should run away from identity. It's you got to understand people's experience in this country is based on how they identify. So regardless of how you feel or not, that's just a true thing.